Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Wednesday, August 20th, a little after 8 o'clock at night, and this will be our daily coverage video for Ulti, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund by YieldMax. There it is. I'm changing things up a little bit, doing things a little different, so you'll see I'm going to separate LFGY out to its own separate video. I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. I let you know when videos are coming out, declarations, trades, all the good stuff related to the ETFs you like. And if you didn't notice already, SLTY is here. So I put a video out. It's just letting you know what's going to be in there, taking a little look at the underlying stocks and see if it's something you're interested in. It's a short fund or inverse fund. They're selling short the stocks and then they're selling puts and buying calls, kind of like a backwards collar strategy. But anyway, that's SLTY. Watch that video if you're interested in that. This will be for Ulti, and I'm separating out LFGY just to see how many people are actually interested in that, or if they're just watching because of Ulti and dropping off. I'm trying to do things different and get a feel for it. Also, you noticed in the thumbnail, I've stopped color coding the different stocks within it. I'll just highlight Ulti red or green based on whether it went up or down. But I did decide to keep the underlyings on there so that you can see changes in the fund. Like, for example, today, Applied Materials is crossed out because we sold out of it. So I also separated out. I made a video just talking about Group C distributions as well as weeklies. So that's its own video, came out this morning. Right there, YieldMax Group C and weeklies. Okay, so I'm just trying to make videos shorter, but it's just going to be more of them. I'm hoping for shorter upload times as well. Highlight reel here, Ulti, as always, the big winner out of the weeklies, paying over 90% annual yield. Still keeping that 10-cent distribution. Craziness. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Let's start with, all right, we've got Ulti. It was pretty ugly at one point. Almost got back to even by the end of the day, just a little below. Decent mixture of red and green. Looks like it's a little bit more red. We'll look at them individually, so we're not going to sit and go through this as well. Workday's the last one within it. So we take a look. We download the intraday trades after 5:30. You got your Ulti trades, always tons and tons of trades from Ulti. I didn't count the number there, but when I went through, that's when I noticed SLTY. This was the opening day for them to trade it. Tomorrow will be the opening day for you to purchase the fund. But Ulti, as I said, we sold out of Applied Materials. So we sold our 425,000 shares, and we also closed out the position that we had, the collar strategy. We then put some money to work buying more Robinhood, Oklo, CoreWeave, Palantir, Reddit, and Credo Technology. So for each of those, we will be doing the appropriate amount of collars, selling calls, and buying puts. And then also, I highlight these orange if it's a complete close and roll of a position on a full amount of contracts on the holdings page. So first off, Affirm Holdings, closing and rolling, staying within the same week, just dropping the strike price closer. $1.6 million collected. Applied Materials, this is just closing out. And as you can see, that protective put worked because it actually made us enough money to pay to close out the calls and still put some money in our pockets on the way out the door. That is because Applied Materials went down, so that's why the put went up. AppLovin. Oh, I'm sorry. So Applied Materials, we collected 310,000. AppLovin, we collected 2.6 million. I say we collected. I kind of interchanged that with we had a credit on the trade. Closing out and rolling to next week now, dropping the strike slightly, 430 down to 420. Sold our 410 put. That generated the most income out of it. Bought a 365. collected that 2.6 million. AST Space Mobile closing out and rolling again to next week, adjusting the positions as well. I think that's a $48.50, not a, yes. Yep, so we closed our 48.50s and sold 46.50s for next week, adjusted our puts from 45.50 down to 40. As you can see, again, we're getting to sell that put that we purchased to protect everything, and it's worth $6.4 million. Overall, collected $7.2 million. Bitmine immersion, closing and rolling, staying within the same week, just bringing the strike down closer to the current price. $4 million credit. Webull closing for this week. Looks like we sold some of it. The 38,000 contracts we sold still for this week, just dropped the strike. And then we sold some at that same strike for next week as well. Resulted in $700,000 credit. Coinbase closing and rolling, keeping it within the same week, just dropping the strike price closer, $3.2 million credit. Credo Technologies closing and rolling to this still the same week, dropping the strike price, and then also selling more to go with the new shares that we just purchased, $2.4 million credit. CoreWeave closing and rolling, staying within the same week, but then also since we bought new shares, selling more for next week as well, dropping from a 97 call down to a 91 this week, and then selling 93s for next week. $850,000 collected. Galaxy Digital closing for this week, 28s, selling 25.50s for next week. As you can see, the biggest value thing in here is getting to sell those protective puts for $2.1 million. Overall, the whole trade resulted in a $2.4 million credit. Robinhood, we got a close and roll, keeping it within the same week, dropping it from 115 to 107, and then selling a new call for next week, 2,000 of them based off of the new shares purchased and buying puts to go with them. $2.6 million credit. IonQ, we're sending it to next week. Bought to close the 40s for this week, sold 38s and 38.50s for next week. Again, most valuable thing in here is the protective puts that we got to sell at the end. Resulted in over $5 million right there. $6.4 million overall collected. Nebius Group, $4.5 million credit after we bought to close those 71s and sold 69s for next week. Again, selling those protective puts that we had purchased, collecting $3.5 million on them. So say what you want about these guys. They did a great job with all these protective puts, and now we're getting to collect all the money from it. Oklo closing out 71s and 72s for this week, selling 68s and 71s. Well, selling 68s, yes, and 71s for next week, then also selling some more 68s for next week to go with the new shares. Overall, basically a $4.8 million credit. Palantir closing this week 167.50s, selling 157.50s for next week, then selling some more 160s for next week off the new shares. 2.3 million collected. Let's see again, biggest value in here is the protective put worth 1.6 million. Oklo, same case. Protective puts were worth 2.9 million and another 700,000 up there on Oklo. Reddit, again, closing out for this week, rolling to next week. The protective puts, biggest value in there, 2.8 million. Overall, collected 3.8 million on the close and roll. Rigetti Computing, closing out those 1650s for this week, selling 1550s and 16s next week. And you guessed it, the protective puts, look at that. Over 10 million of the 11.6 million collected came from those protective puts. Good thing we got them. So this fund, back before the strategy change, would have been absolutely murdered this week without all these protective puts, because look at all the money that's coming in because of purchasing those. Rocket Lab Closing out those 45.50s for this week, selling 41.50s and 42.50s for next week. You're getting tired of hearing it, but I'm not getting tired of saying it. Protective puts, look at that, bringing in 2.7 out of the $3.7 million credit. SMCI, closing those 47s for this week, selling 44.50s for next week. Protective put, bringing in 1 out of the 1.2 million. New Scale Power, closing those 37.50s, selling 35.50s for next week. Protective puts were 1.6 out of the $2.3 million collected. Target, all right, we closed the 110s and sold 100 still within the same week. We sold the puts. We did not buy new ones, so we don't have down. Let me see if we have anything else with Target, or is it just those shares or just those options? Yep, it's just those. So maybe they're going to wait and buy puts tomorrow, but as of right now, we don't have downside protection on Target, and that's kind of a rarity for us to not have it. But the ones that we did have, we collected 1.1 million out of the 1.5 million total collected on the trade. Tesla closing out those 345s for this week, selling 332.50s for next week. The puts were worth 2.1 out of the $3 million. And Unity Software. Let's see. We closed these. I think are they a 40 or a 400? I'm still not familiar with them. They're 40. Closing 40s for this week and selling them still this week at 37, and then closing 39s for this week and selling 38s for next week. Just selling the smaller portion of puts. We still have the larger block, the 27,500 puts to go along with those shares. So $870,000 collected. Whew, all of that totals up to $74 million credit in trading options today for Ulti. So we're looking at real quick 143, maybe 144 million dollars in collected cash from options trading this week. I did tell you last week, I think we're gonna have a good options trading credit week. Okay, as you can see, we got some down today. Obviously, nowhere near comparable to how much we brought in, so we like that. Yesterday still hurts on share value, so we don't want to talk about that. So 12.6 million is going to be the drop. In values, we're going to talk about why. But since we're here, it is declaration day. Ulti announced 10 cents even. So I told you my not perfect IV math came out to 7.86 cents. And then trying to factor in the fact that I knew it's not perfect. It's not picking up the volatility of the individual options. So I upped it to 9.1, which would have been at 80%. And they said, nope, we're paying 90%. I missed it by 9% on my guesstimate. But that's perfectly fine. I'm sure everyone's happier to see that 10 cents than my 9 cents. So we're not mad. All right, as we go through the underlyings, this will show us how they moved individually and tell us how we came up with that. I think I said $12 million decrease. We'll try to get through it quickly. Anything with orange, we don't need to talk about it because we just did. That's options. They got closed and rolled, so they are no longer in play. Okay, so Affirm Holdings went down 1.1%. They still have 77s in play for this week that are 5.5% out of the money. Applied Materials, we sold all our shares. We closed out our options. We're done talking about them. AppLovin, down a fraction. Down, what's it going to be? 22 cents on a $400 stock. So we've got 427.50s that are still in play for this week, 3.6% out of the money. As you can see over on this right-hand column, that'll be the change in market value based on the decrease in share price. I'm not reading every one of them. Maybe we'll hit the highlight reel, like the real big ones. AST Space Mobile up 0.29%. All positions were rolled. Bitmine Immersion, the big winner over here today, 4.58% increase. resulted in $4.5 million increase in value. They've rolled the further out of the money positions. They still have 53s in play, 1.8% out of the money, expiring Friday. Webull down almost 4%. Further out of the money options got rolled. They still have 16s in play that are 11.5% out of the money. Coinbase Global up 0.77%. Again, rolled the further out of the money position. Still have 320s in play for Friday, 5% out of the money. Credo Technology down 0.29%. They closed and rolled all these options. CoreWeave down about 1.5%. Again, they closed and rolled those options. At least now we have puts on these that we've purchased as opposed to a sold put that just kept on killing us. But at the same time, I'm not sure how bullish we are on CoreWeave. We had about $201 million sitting in basic, we'll call it cash. I mean, it's First American Government Obligation Funds, but it's going to get used as cash. When we need it, it comes out and gets to work. Galaxy Digital up 1.7%. The only full roll was on the puts. They did roll portions of other stuff, but they still have 2550s and 28s. When I talk about these, I'm always talking about the calls. I don't really highlight all the protective puts. But 4 and 14% out of the money on those. The calls are what are supposed to be generating the income. This week the puts are generating the income. They're just for protection. Robinhood markets down 2%. 113s are still in play, 7% out of the money. The other ones got closed and rolled. IonQ down, a penny? Down 1 penny. They closed and rolled the 40s. They still have 3850s that are 4.6% out of the money. Mara Holdings up 1.8%. 16s are 3.5% out of the money with 2 more trading days left until expiration. Nebius Group up 0.4%. The further out of the money strikes were rolled. The 70s are still in play, 3.75% out of the money. Oklo up 1.7%. Everything got rolled except the closest strike, which would be 70s. They're 5% out of the money. And then, so the portion that goes along with the rest of these shares, contracts out of these puts got rolled. So there's now just the 84.30 to go along with the rest of that collar strategy. Palantir Technology down 1.1%. This one confused me. They closed and rolled the closer to the money position and left the further out of the money 170s. Still for this week, almost 9% out of the money. Don't know. Reddit down 4.3%. They've still got 245s in play for 12% out of the money. I believe they rolled 3,128 out of these 4,628. Rigetti Computing down 2.6%. All positions got closed and rolled. Rocket Lab, just look. So these puts that they had were 5 and 8% in the money. I'm sure we've had others that were big too. I just haven't been looking. Rocket Lab down 0.5%. Further out of the money strikes were rolled. 45s are still in play for Friday, 10.5% out of the money. Supermicro Computer down almost 1.5%. Same thing I've been saying. Further out of the money positions got rolled. Closer to the money, 4550s are still in play, 6.7% out of the money. NewScale Power up about 3.5%. Same thing again. So the only thing left is the 37s that are 9.5% out of the money. Target, the big loser, down 6.3%. Maybe we throw Target over in SLTY. All positions were closed and rolled. That took our value down by 6.5 million. Tesla down 1.6% is another one. We bought them at 340 most recently. They're down to 323. But these options were closed and rolled. Unity Software down 3.7%. The 2 strikes further out of the money got closed and rolled. They still have 3850s that are in play for Friday, 7.4% out of the money. Upstart was up 3.7%. No action was taken. We have $66 calls sold that are 3.3% out of the money expiring Friday. And finally, Workday down an even 1%. They have 240s and 245s still in play till Friday, 5.5% and 7.7% out of the money. So that all those increases and decreases resulted in a $12.6 million decrease in value. I do see that some numbers updated after I wrote that down. That's why I leave it, just so I can do like final checks later. So I will copy and paste that new number over there. So we've had some fear going on. I think this is the third day in a row now. And this isn't the result of today's trading. This is the result of yesterday's. That's how we find this out. We find the trades off of today, and then our holdings information came from yesterday. So yesterday, there was a decrease in outstanding shares, people selling out of the fund, 2.75 million. Not sure what we'll see today, if it'll be another down day or if maybe that down and then back up was a result of people coming back in, like in the new low price. But we got $3.1 billion assets under management. That doesn't take into account today's trading or changes. So we'll have a new value tomorrow. Most recent distribution was 10.06 cents. They just announced another one, but it hasn't been distributed yet. That'll be Friday. Today was your last day to buy in if you wanted to get that payment. All right, so normally we cut over to LFGY now, but we are changing things up, trying to make shorter videos. So this is going to be the end of this one, and I think this one's going to get the dad joke since this is the most popular. I don't know if I'm going to be able to come up with so many different dad jokes every single day. I'll run out too soon. But thank you, everyone. All the likes, comments, shares, all the help, all the support. You guys are great. I love talking with you in the chats. I'm probably going to be in the less chats now. I'm trying to make some changes to give me back some time while still being able to give you guys all the information you want. But all right, dad joke of the day. Did you hear about the cheese that's been working out? Dude, shredded. My wife and kids cracked up when I told them that earlier. All right, have a good night. You got a couple other videos from me for today if you want to watch them. And good luck trading tomorrow.